What up, guys? Welcome to the Athletic Nerd. I have my two guests, Tania and my cousin Dier. Introduce yourselves and tell us a little about what's going on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Tania, and I am a recent graduate from Mississippi State University. I'm a meteorologist, broadcaster, and news reporter. And I know Rashad because of we're colleagues. We went to college together, and we just happened to be living, our hometown was in the same area as well. So it's a win-win situation. I'm super excited to be on this podcast today and on his YouTube channel and on his platform. It's an honor. Thank you for having me, and I can't wait to dive into the conversation.
Nice to meet you, Tania.
You too, Dier.
Yeah, so I'm Dier. As you can see at the bottom there, it says Dier the First. That's my Instagram handle. You guys can follow me on there. I am a real estate investor. I invest in Columbus, Ohio, and Atlanta, the Atlanta metro area. We flip houses, we wholesale houses, we rehab houses. So we do quite a bit of work in the real estate field. If anybody's ever looking to get into real estate or how they can get into real estate, check me out at Dier the First on Instagram. I don't do YouTube at the moment, but Instagram is the best way to find me. So,
and I'll be sure to.
And I forgot to mention. Oh,
I'll be sure to drop that.
Oh no, you're good. Below. Go ahead.
Well,
okay, cool.
Today's topic is an interesting topic, guys. It's polygamy versus monogamy. I sent both of y'all a video from the Dead Ass podcast, and they was talking about basically the husband was talking about how he felt, is it okay to probably look elsewhere outside of his marriage if he's not getting the needs met where he wanted from his wife. So I wanted all y'all, give a brief, lost my train of thought. Give a brief thought on what y'all thought about the video, and then we'll jump into the overall discussion. Tania?
So I have to say I lean more towards on the wives side of this conversation, only because I know that when you get into a marriage, your job is to, submit to each other. So it's very important that you guys figure out and talk to each other and communicate what boundaries and how you're going to submit to each other in that sort of way to meet each other's needs sexually, intimately, all of that kind of thing. And so I feel like he should not be seeking for, intimacy outside of his relationship, whether it's being met by his wife or not. That's something that they need to talk about amongst each other to figure out how they can better meet each other's needs in that type of a way. And so I definitely agree with her. She said, I know she had mentioned about how when she married him, she didn't force him. What was, can you fill me in with there? Cause I'm kind of losing my train of thought with what she was saying about.
You said it right. She said, I never forced you to marry me.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that and so when he made the decision to marry her, he was basically, taking up all of the decisions that they're going to make together from that point on forward, in their relationship in that type of way. So they need to make sure that they lay that foundation each and every day of how they're going to make sure that they are meeting each other's needs intimately, and he should not be looking outside of his marriage for that type of thing. That's just my opinion, because as a Christian, your goal, as a Christian, is just to submit to your wife. Having multiple sexual relationships only causes drama in the relationship overall, in my opinion. So, Dier, what is your perspective on that?
So I actually agree with you. I agree with you a lot. I feel like, if you're in a marriage and you've agreed with this person to be exclusive, you guys have both agreed to be exclusive to each other, and you decide, hey, I'm not getting my needs met. I feel like that's honest, and you can say that. And then from there, you do need to, like you said, you guys come together and find out a solution. And if there isn't a solution, I understand where a lot of guys, I actually seen a post on Instagram I thought was extremely toxic, but it said, if you got to ask for head, cheat. And I was like, what type of advice is that? But it's like that type of, that type of thinking, I feel like is very toxic. And in my opinion, it's very, it's not masculine, because I feel like a true masculine man can just state his fact, like, hey, this is what I need. This is what I am looking for. You don't have to say it in a nasty way. You can just say, hey, this is what I'm looking for. I'm not really receiving that. I will hope that, maybe you take that into consideration and maybe, supply more of that for me. But if not, then, maybe we need to reconsider our our arrangement and our engagements, whether that's marriage or boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever that engagement is, then you guys can go back and revisit that. But I think one thing that a lot of men fail to realize is that you gain a lot of respect, and women find it very attractive when you're just upfront, and you don't have to go and be silent and then go like a little kid and go hide and then go cheat or do something behind closed doors that nobody else knows. Just be honest. So in that situation, I think that man, I agree with him being honest and making it a conversation piece, telling her that he's not satisfied. But at the same time, if if she's not willing to change, maybe her sexual appetite, or maybe try to, accommodate him more sexually, then he has to, let her know, hey, well, I'm not going to be pleased with that. Let's figure out something that works. Whether that's us just being friends, whether that's whatever, whatever that looks like for them. But yeah, I don't agree with, I agree with her saying like, well, yeah, you married me. Like, so, I think, I just think a lot of guys have misconceptions when it comes to marriage, and relationships in general, because we're living in the Western world, where, to be quite honest, there's a lot of control and there's a lot of hidden factors to why we do things that we do, that we don't necessarily understand. So that's my view take on it. So I think she was right.
Okay, so
I think she was right.
We all agree that she was right. I agree with both of y'all. I seen the video. I understood where the man came from. I've been in a relationship before, but at a point, I'm not married, so either the point you walk away, or you basically, like Dear said, you put your, I don't want to say demands, but you say what you stand for up front, and whether y'all go together or y'all gonna move apart. And the marriage is for, come together. So it's a talk that needs to happen ahead of time, or every other few years or so. Because I don't think no man wants to go sexless throughout his marriage. Modern day society, I hear a lot of guys, grown men in their marriages from time to time talk about it. But we're going to use this to jump into the topic of the day: polygamy versus monogamy. I'm kind of indifferential about the topic, but I like it to happen. Probably, I ain't gonna lie, it get me a little too wise, you know what I'm saying? But one, does the scripture say it, or there's other, huh?
I said, yeah, you've been bugging me about it.
Does the scripture say it? Is it okay religiously? Is it of the law? Is it okay naturally? And let's, so I'm gonna say my viewpoints, and then I'm gonna pass it on to them. So first of all, I'm gonna start biblical, because it took me a while to go through some research. So first of all, monogamy, which is a one-on-one marriage, one man, one wife. It is God's perfect will. It is stated in Genesis 2, chapter 24. Let me get my paper here for y'all. That is why a man leaves his father and his mother and is untied to and is united to his wife. They become flesh. All right, so that's the basic thing. So that is his perfect will. Now, as you see though, in the Old Testament, there was a lot of God's known prophets: Abraham, David, King Solomon, Jacob. They was known to have multiple wives. So then, the argument comes: is it okay? Now, I will say, so most of these men, even though they have multiple wives, you will come to see they have problems on the back end of their marriages. But God, well, you could say God chastised them. God just let things happen the way they were naturally. Now, when we go into polygamy, I will say, whether you agree or disagree with me, this is just my interpretation. This falls under God's permissible will, because there's no part in the Bible that I have gone through that said it was a sin, or you will be damned if you have multiple wives. And a cool example I would say is divorce, because if divorce is something that you cannot do in the Bible, but the way people moved throughout the past, it became such a big thing. God allowed it to happen, even though he does not want it to happen. Sorry about that.
I seen that notification too.
Okay, no, okay, so y'all seen it. Okay. So, like I said, the Old Testament, polygamy is profound throughout the Old Testament. Not New Testament, not so much. But an interesting thing is Noah. A lot of people didn't know this. He wrote a lot of laws back in the day, and he also had 2 wives himself. And as for Moses and the 10 Commandments, if you go to Exodus 20:21, verse 7 through 9, he also gives provisions through polygamy, which most people probably be surprised about to see that he gave guidelines to having a polyamory relationship. And long story short, you can go to the verse and check it out for yourself. Long story short, he's basically saying, don't get greedy, only use it for the just and right purposes. And, you know, don't just be hoarding and getting multiple wives just to get multiple wives.
Right.
And basically, and also the last part of the statement is basically only people in the past that really had multiple wives was men and kings and men that was of upper class, middle upper class. Lower middle class and poor people did not have multiple wives back in the day. And let's see, what we got, one more thing. And like I said, so the last part is reiterating, there is no clear part in the scripture of the Bible that condones polygamy as a sin. Now, if you find it, hey, let me know. I apologize. That's just getting the biblical version out the way. So now we're gonna go to the law of the land, human nature, and how people feel out here in this world. Don't know how to say this, guys. Okay, so for human nature, monogamy benefits the woman. It usually is a life and security for her and her children to keep everybody together and safe. And usually during the modern day society, Western world, it also keeps the man, well, even for men and for his right, he can take care of his children and know where they at. Now, if you have multiple wives, you're not going to be able to keep check of every single child that you have. So you have a track and you know what's going on. You can raise your family and protect your family, whereas the monogamy. And as for polygamy, this interesting stat from Professor Schwartz from Washington University, professor of sociology, he says if you look at the research, there is 5% of mammals that share a monogamy type bond. So only a few birds and other animals stay together for a whole lifetime. And then the last part before I pass the floor to y'all, I was looking at the Dean show, and basically he just basically said it's natural for men to be polygamous because when we are visual creatures and we are fascinated and turned on by what we see, opposed to women, they get turned on in another fashion. So we're able to cognitively think and feel more emotions for like probably more than one person, or we know how to differentiate love and passion and how we feel for somebody else. So I just kind of did a quick spiel because I know how y'all both have differentiating opinions. So Tania, I'm gonna give it to you first, and then Dier, I'll let you say your piece, bro.
Man, it really is tough because it's like one of those topics where having tattoos a sin, or one of those topics that there's just not a real concise 100% clear answer. And I look at it as more as just like, where is the person's intentions? Like, why do you want, more than one wife? Is it just because you want to, please your own desires? And is it just for self-pleasure? That kind of thing. And I think that if you look at it in a biblical standpoint, God just, his ultimate thing is looking at our heart and seeing where our posture is and whatever it is that we do. And so although, things may not be 100%, black or white, or there may not be a clear fine line between things, I think it just goes down to your relationship with Christ. Do you think that this action is going to be something that God is going to look at you and be like, okay, I'm happy with what you're doing? Or is it something that you're going to feel that, he's not going to really be pleased by what you're doing? And so, looking at having more than one wives, I just feel like, for one, it's just very confusing. And, God is not a God of confusion. So anytime there's just a lot of hectic, okay, I'm calling this wife. Wait, which wife's calling me? You know, oh wait, I owe you a little child support. I'll pay for this kid. Wait, this kid, that kid. It just caused a lot of confusion. There's already confusion in divorces and, you know, just so much drama. So when you are submitted to one person, you can focus all your time on that one person and building together. It's hard to build with 10 different people. You know, I'm just saying a number, but it's hard to build with multiple people. And to build that trust and that close bond, you're only one person. How much of yourself are you going to be able to give? Are you going to be able to give 100% of yourself to each person? Or are you going to give them 2%, give them 5%? Are your relationships, are they really going to be meaningful is how I look at it. And so, and then back in the day, I can see why it was more purposeful for them, because if you're running a kingdom, you know, okay, this wife did this wife worked on that, this wife did that. So I guess I can see why it was more useful for them. But the way that our society is working now, you know, if a male is supposed to supply for their family and their wives, are they all going to live in different homes? Are you going to have enough space for all of them in one big house? I mean, it's really just confusing. Are they going to have their own extra relationships on the side too? It's just a lot. I don't know. What's your take on it, Dier?
No, I think a lot of what you said is pretty true. I think that's some really good perspective, a lot of good questions. So I think that there's a multi levels to this polygyny or polygamy. What I personally practice is polygyny, which is with an N, which is where there's one male and multiple females, right? So there is a reason for that, and there's multiple different reasons for that. But if we talk about even just in America, for instance, like you said, the divorce rates being so high,
60%
a lot
now.
of that has to. I'm sorry, what'd you say?
60% right now.
60%.
Yes.
Yeah, and so and those are just the actual divorces, not to mention the people who are in relationships who maybe have children and then they break up. So I'm sure that rate is probably a lot higher. And when we think about that, I feel like a lot of it has to do with going against nature, right? I personally am not a Christian. I was born Christian. I was raised Christian. I was raised on the Bible. I was actually one of the kids that would stand up in church, and I was very, very adamant about God, which I still am. But I'm not a person who abides by what I believe to be the man-made scripture, because I have studied a lot of the scriptures. I've actually read a lot of them in their original format from the tablets that they come from. And I know me and Rashad have talked about this sometimes, but there's a lot of old scripture that's no longer in the Bible, like the Emerald Tablets, the Book of Thomas, the Book of Enoch. There's many, many books that are not in that book. And I've learned that a lot of that is to control the minds of the people, because people that look like me and you, who are melanated individuals, we are very, very spiritual. It's in our blood. It's in our genetic makeup to be very spiritual and connected with source, with God, with source. And so when these colonizers found this out, and they found out that they couldn't control us, the only way that they could control us was through spirituality. And so they managed to manufacture and sell back to us our own spirituality with their own twists and turns to it. So my point in saying all that is that we have a natural way that we are naturally. And a lot of us have gone against nature, which causes a lot of sickness that manifests in a lot of different ways, whether that's physical ailments or that's, dynamics within families. And when you look at the Black families, our Black families on record, let's put it on record. Most of them are Christian. Most of the Black families are Christian. They're not Muslim. Most of them are not Muslim. Most of them are not Hindu. Most of them are not any of these other religions, the other 210 religions on the planet. Most of them are Christian. There's a reason for that. And there's a reason why they strive very hard to make sure that we abide by those things. So there's a lot of scriptures in there that also tell slaves to obey their earthly masters. There are many things in that book that are made to make our minds limited, so that we limit ourselves. God created us with no caps, but they put caps on. They gave us the scripture so that we could put caps on ourselves. So we limit ourselves. So to go kind of back into what we were saying about polygamy and monogamy, I think every relationship should start off monogamous. As a man, he has to know his own nature. Any man that tells you that, yeah, I like you and only you, he's a liar. Period. He's a liar. He may love you. He may not love any other woman the way that he loves you, But is to say that he's not attracted to any other woman is a complete lie. And the reason for that is because that's not how human nature works. Even for the woman herself, she is still also attracted to other males. Not to say that she will go and mess with another male, not to say she will entertain another male. But yes, her natural physiology, her physical body has reactions when she talks to males. It has a reaction when she sees a male do certain feats that women find attractive. So there's a difference between our commitments and our physiology. Now, for men, when we want to, our bodies produce 17 times the amount of testosterone that women produce. Now, most people don't know that testosterone is actually the chemical that is responsible, or the hormone that's responsible in the human body, in both men and women, to make them want to reproduce and have physical sex. So for a man to have 17 times the amount of testosterone as a woman, that's a lot of self-control to not want to have sex. This is why you see men, it doesn't matter how decent of a man we are. If we're on Instagram, we see booty shaking, we see women half naked, we're gonna look. We may be like, I'm guilty of that myself. I'd be like, man, I don't want to see this, but I'm gonna look though. I'm like, that looks nice, but you know what I mean? I don't really want to see that though. I really rather focus on something much more worth my time. But our nature is that God created us to produce and to reproduce, which is why when a woman is pregnant, her sex drive goes down typically. It maybe spikes at different times, but most of the time it goes down. And even if it's not down, she cannot reproduce again while being pregnant. Now, a man, he could go and reproduce with 100 women all within that same month or that same day, for that matter, or within a span of a few days. So if God didn't intend for it to be like that, our bodies and our physiology would not be that way. Now, I do think that comes with a certain amount of self-control. I think that there should be rules, there should be understanding. But for a man to say that, hey, I'm not attracted to any other woman, and I'm just going to be attracted to just you, he's lying to you, and he's giving you a false sense of security, which, in my opinion, I think women are very intelligent and very smart, so they know that that's not true. Like, that guy can tell them, like, yeah, I only got the eyes for you, baby. I only got the eyes for you. But they know in their heart and in their guts that that's not necessarily true. They may trust him, like, yeah, he's not going to go sleep. I trust this guy. He's not going to go and mess with anybody, I don't think. But they still have their eyes open, like, I'm paying attention, because they know a man's nature. It's just in there. Women are very intuitive, so they can feel that. They can feel it, even though they can feel his genuinity, how genuine he is, how much he may care for her. They're still like, well, I'm going to keep my eyes open. I'm going to keep my eyes open because I know how men are, and that type of vibe. And then reality is that it's the men who are not being honest about their own nature, because they want a woman to love them. They want a woman to like them. We love women, so we want them to like us. So yeah, if most men are like, yeah, if I got to tell this girl that she's the only one for me so that I can have her, I like her so much, I'm so attracted to her, yeah, I'll tell her that. And I feel like that's dishonest. It's very dishonest, and it's not being honest with yourself or that person. And so I think that honesty is one of the main things that create, strong, lasting relationships. And I think that's a huge point for why a lot of our relationships fail, because they're not founded on true honesty. They're founded with good intentions, but they're not necessarily on honest, just basis. It's not an honest basis. So that's my little take. But
now I got one thing for you. So this is kind of my mom. She wanted me to ask you a personal question. So
okay,
she
cool.
was like,
Lisa.
yeah. So my mother said, so is it okay for a woman to practice polygamy and she have multiple husbands?
Well, that's a pretty interesting question. I feel like it's true that anybody can do what they want to do, right? The fact is that we've all been given free will. But for you have to look at the nature of a man and a woman, right? I feel like for a woman, if she's with multiple men and she's sleeping with multiple men that these men know about, let's say they're all in agreement. The issue is whose child is in that woman. They may not know that. Maybe that's not a big deal to them. That's to each their own. I think that the type of men that would be in that type of arrangement, in most cases, they're not going to be alpha men. In most cases, that woman is going to be an alpha woman. There are women like that. There are women, what they call with masculine cores. So I don't know if you know this, but every human being has a certain type of core, whether that's a masculine core, a feminine core, or a neutral core. So some people are very neutral in their sexuality. Some people are assertive. And you can find this out just by asking a person the type of partner they prefer. If you ask a man, hey, do you like a partner that's bigger than you? Or do you like a partner that's smaller than you? Most men, most masculine core men will say, I like a partner who's smaller than me. Do you like a partner who's stronger than you? Most women will say, yes, I want a partner who is actually stronger than me. You ask a man that, he'll say, well, I want a partner no, I don't want her to be physically stronger than me. That's not something that I'm looking for in a partner. Now, a man who's in what they call a polyandry type of relationship, in a relationship with one woman and it's multiple men, most cases those men are very, the best way to put it is feminine. They're feminine men. It's not to say that they're homosexual or that they have, that their sexuality is in question, but they are, I mean, that could be a factor too, but they are feminine. They're feminine in their core. They like to be led. That woman is leading them. And if you look at the American man, not to mention the hormones and the chemicals that are in the food, but most of the stuff is to make men passive. When you look at the American Black woman in here in the United States, the Black woman is the backbone of the family.
Assertive.
And this is not on accident. This was a way to undermine the Black family. And so what this has done is it has made a lot of our women very masculine. It has made them to where they can no longer be comfortable. They can no longer be passive. They can no longer be housewives. They can no longer just enjoy children, enjoy the things that comes with being a motherhood, with motherhood, for instance. Like motherhood has suffered so much. Our kids go off to school from the age of probably about 2 years old, if not younger. Usually it's about 6 months after the mother gets off work leave. They're back working in the field because they have to go work, because they're the man in the family. Even if there is a man, that the man is expecting that woman to go work.
Cause we got
Okay,
a question.
go ahead.
I know you about to go on. You about to blow it up.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I could go in on
No.
it. It's really interesting.
No, you mentioned some really great points. I'm over here like, wow. But I wanted to ask you, because this is what I want clarity on. So you mentioned there's polygamy and polygamy. Can you explain the difference of two and the one that you are? Yeah, like explain that.
So they have polygamy.
Polygamy, my bad.
With the M is polygamy. It just means basically multiple partners in general. That could look like anything. So polyandry is
polyandry.
Polyandry is when there's one woman and there's multiple men. This is practiced in different places in the world. It's not necessarily the structure that I like. For me, I don't think it really makes sense for our demographic personally, but I never judge other people's decisions. But then you have polygyny, which is what I do practice, which is where there's one man and there's multiple women. So that's the difference. So I'll answer that. So it's 3 different types there. Yep. Did you have a question?
No, I was just gonna say, so this natural day, how the dating world is, I'm not gonna even jump to the marriage portion. People do in a way practice polygamy without even knowing it. Because like cheating is also at an all-time high. So you say you're faithful to this one person, but you're still sleeping with somebody else behind their back, committing adultery. So like people say they're not for it, but they're still practicing it without even thinking on it.
Or think about how many single mothers there are. Think about how many single mothers there are that have children. If they get with another man, whether they recognize it or not, they are in a polygamous relationship. They still have to co-parent. If they have a decent relationship with the other parent, they still have to co-parent with that other parent. So they're still in a polygamous relationship, whether they're having sex with them or not. I think a lot of people think when they think about polygamy or, poly anything, they're thinking of multiple sex partners, which that is a factor, but it's not the major factor. So for myself, I have a baby mother, is what most people would call it. I have a mother for my children, my first 2 children, and then I have my current woman who is pregnant with my 3rd child. So now, with that being the case, technically we're already in a polygamous relationship. Now, the woman that I'm with now, before we even got together, I believe in courting, so we courted. I learned that from my last situation, but I let her know that that's something that I look to do in the future. I am looking to be polyamorous. I do look to have multiple wives in the future. Obviously, me and her have to have our foundation set. We have to be locked in. We got to know exactly what we're on. And she has to be secure. I want her to have her will set up. I want to have her trust set up so that even if there comes a day where she's like, you know what, De'Ara, this isn't working for me, I can still respect that and say, okay, well, that doesn't mean that you're assed out. That doesn't mean that you don't have anything. That doesn't mean that you just wasted 20 years, 15 years of your life. You still have all the paperwork. You still have the real estate. You still have your own income. You have your own assets to where you are okay without me. You're not dependent on me. But it's my role, in my opinion, in my type of relationship, for me as a man, if I am choosing to be this masculine man that I believe I am, to make sure that I secure her as well as our children, no matter what. So I think that a lot of men would abide by that. A lot of men would feel very good and empowered being able to do that. But that's not something we're educated on doing. And the system is set up to where they don't want us to do that. They really don't want us to do that. It's against the law to have multiple partners, in case you didn't know that. It's to be married to multiple people, but yet it's not against the law to have sex with animals. So like it's actually a legal thing for you to have sex with animals, and I believe it's like 9 states, but yet it's illegal to have multiple partners throughout the entire United States. So that tells you that the government has a specific agenda to make sure that people do not come together in family groups like that. Because if we did, that's how we overcome the system. So, but they don't want us to talk about that. They want to, they much rather have you out here fucking animals than having an organized relationship and having healthy relationships that are based on truth and honesty. So it's real interesting. But
so I have another question for you. So do you think that a major factor in being able to practice I don't know how to say the word. Say the word for me.
Which one? Polyamory, polygyny?
The one you practice.
Yeah.
Say what the partners you're looking at. So multiple partners or
having multiple wives.
Okay. So polygyny.
So do you think that in order to really be successful in that, it takes like financial stability and having, okay, yeah. So that's why you said you want to practice that in the future, right? So like you want to be like financially set. Is that an aspect that you're trying to achieve?
Absolutely. And I'm not saying that it can't be done without money. I think that money is a huge factor. But I think that it doesn't mean that the man has to have all the money and, now I get multiple wives. I think the reality is that you have to have financial literacy. I think you just need to. So if you and your current partner practice financial literacy and you guys make it to where you're both financial literate, you have great assets, you are living passive, because it doesn't take a lot to live passive. It takes one FHA loan, getting a 4-unit rental to create $1,500 passive income every month, and now you're completely out of the rat race for the rest of your life. And so I think that it's just financial literacy. I think sex I think our culture is highly sexed. We're so sexual, it makes no sense. The women are told that they're liberated by being over sexualized. And
that's another conversation for another day. We gonna hey, look, I got a discussion for that conversation. That's okay, another day.
We'll talk about that. We'll talk about it. Go ahead.
But I was just gonna say, during my research, will say, like, Tania, like, I mean, we talked about it a little bit, and Dia too. Like, I was surprised to see, like, even in the biblical Christian community, it's like it's an influx. I thought it probably been like, a one-sided conversation while doing research, but to see it's kind of like a 50-50, or if you don't want to say 50-50, 55-45 head, but back and forth on how to interpret the Bible. And I was surprised to hear what my girlfriend said when we was having to talk about it. She's like, it ain't gonna be no thing, snap my finger, I'm gonna be able to get another wife. But if our foundation and our lifestyle is set up, she said she could entertain it. Now, baby, if I misquote you, don't beat my butt. You know what I'm saying? I'm just trying to remember 5 days worth of information. But basically, whether it's me or whoever her future husband is, it's just something that needs to be talked about way ahead of time. And I was surprised there wasn't really a lot of pushback in that conversation. But Anything you got to say, Tania, or just anything worldly or related to the topic?
You know, I know there's scriptures in the Bible that says a man who finds a wife finds a good thing. So, like, how many times you gonna find a good thing? You gonna find them out of all 5 wives? Like, I don't know if I can wrap my head around that.
Well, it did say,
but
well, I got you. So it did say, you know, don't become
man who finds a wife. No, 50 wives.
It said don't become greedy. There was a I don't have it on me, the exact scripture, but it basically said don't become greedy, where to the point, like I said, you know, all the other men, King Solomon, 700 wives, it blowed up in his face. King David blowed up in his face. Like, you 500, you know, like, you know, that's like overkill.
That's excessive.
So, you know,
that's like way too many. You can't even
greedy. You know, if you want to,
you
hey,
can't
like, all I need
know
is
their
2 in my
names.
life.
Yeah.
And I think he had 300 concubines. Don't forget that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. We get
which are basically lesser wives, where they don't have the same privileges as the other wives, but they're basically sex tools. So yeah.
And then God with David, he told David when he stole, I can't remember her name, when he sent her husband to war, and he got him killed, and then he took his wife. The angel came to him. He's like, David, I could have gave you another wife. You didn't have to go send a man you didn't have to go send a man to die to take his wife. So I think it's all in context. Like I said, you know, maybe I'm interpreting the Bible wrong. Maybe I'm interpreting it right. You know, Dier say he's done his research. You know, it's all about how we prescribe and receive things, and you know,
I feel like how I look at relationships though is that they should just be purposeful. I mean, I feel like you should be achieving a goal together or like working towards something together. So it's really, really hard for me to wrap my head around if you have more than one, you know, partner. It makes it harder for you to do that. But then, I mean, not everybody you can trust. And then, I don't know, you got to find that one person that you can just like see yourself growing with and then taking it for the long haul. But I feel like a lot of times, I feel like nowadays relationships are just, you know, people just want to be in a relationship so bad. So they're not even looking at, okay. Right. I feel like now it's just like, oh, I'm taken. They just want to be taken, you know? So that's why I feel like divorces are higher, you know, more now than ever, is because relationships aren't so much
one-on-one. It's for the clout. It's for media. It's to say,
it's
girl,
like,
look,
oh, we cute, so we work, you know? Right. We cute, so we work, you know, oh, you do this and I do that, like, you know, whatever the case may be. But it's complicated. Relationships overall, it's just complicated. I don't know if anyone's ever going to have a real answer of how to make it just work 100%. I think it's just all about, you know, becoming your best self. And as long as someone else is always willing to keep growing and becoming their best self, then 2 people always growing can work. That's how I look at it. And then a lot of divorces happen because one person usually stops. They get stagnant. They, you know, eventually you're just like, okay, now you're lazy, you're not working no more. A lot of divorces happen over that kind of stuff because one person relationship stops being better. So I feel like as long as 2 people are always growing, always trying to learn and never stopping in that aspect, hey, you have a better chance of lasting in the long haul. And then, you know, commitment is just making that choice. It's just a decision every day. You know, love is a sacrifice. It's just about sacrificing everything that you have for that person. You're not gonna, what is everyone always says, you're not gonna like that person every day. I don't know. What is it? You're not gonna love that person every day. You're not gonna like that person every day. Something like that.
Infatuation fades. Infatuation comes and goes. You might be infatuated with that person one year. The next year you'd be like, well, you know, I'm not infatuated with them, but I still love them. Right. And so I think that's, like you said, a lot of people have the intentions mixed up. Like, I want to ask you guys, because this is something that I start my relationships off with, because I feel like for me, family is like really, really important to me. And so in many different ways. And so for me, I've realized over time that having a goal is like the biggest thing in anything, right? Most people hang with people with no goal. They have no goal. They just, we just hang out, you know, I'm cool with them. I don't do that. There's nobody I hang out with that we don't have some type of intentions for why we're doing it. You know, and I think that that's like a big thing. You know, so for instance, like if you guys are entertaining somebody, you should know what that person's dream is. So I would ask you guys, what do you feel like your dream is for your life? Like, if you accomplished this one thing for your life and did nothing else, what would that one thing be? What would that be for you guys?
Well, for me, I would say just to be, I don't want to say rich, just financially stable enough to take care of my family and my loved ones. We can travel the world if we want to. We have a successful business or whatever, whatever type of income we have. But basically, we are not worried about the next paycheck and worried about being out on the streets. Just
Guys,
a comfortable lifestyle, basically. Of course, you gotta have to put the
I
hard
mean,
work into it, of course.
what
But
do you think, Tania?
Oh man, that's so tough. I mean, there's multiple goals, but I think overall, definitely financial stability is part of it, because the goal that I want to reach is going to definitely take, having financial stability. But my ultimate goal is just to be able to have so that I can give back. Is to be able to have so that I can support other people to get them to where I'm at. And I just want to make sure that I can be okay. Right now, I'm sort of like the borrower. I want to be that lender. I want to be at
Yeah.
the point in my life where if someone asks me for something, oh, you know what, here's $50,000, I'm paying for your college education, something like
Yeah.
that. Like, that's just kind of how I feel like that's just what makes the world go round. And I want to make it to the top so I can bring other people with me. That's like the goal.
Yep.
What
I
about
agree
you
with
though?
that.
What about
I mean,
you?
so it's very interesting to hear you all say that, because I feel like our goals are generally the same. And so when you hear that, that lets you know that there's a lot of other things that divide people that don't matter. Like, if we all have the same one goal, if we had to choose one goal, like, because my goal would be like, and I don't know if you know this about me, Rashad, but I can recite it off top. My definitive chief aim for my life is to gain, maintain, and grow wealth for myself and my family. And for me, family is also my friends. If I consider you a friend, you are my family, period. So that's how I view that. And it took me some time to really like realize that, everything I do in life revolves around that one goal. There's many other things that we do. There's a whole bunch of shit that we, may do, but that one goal is the forefront of everything. And I don't know if you guys are familiar with Napoleon Hill and his writing, but he studied 20 of the wealthiest men in the world in the 1920s, and he wrote a book on it. And the wealthy people at that time did not want that book published because they didn't know he was writing a book. First of all, he was part of a secret society, and they thought he was an initiate, and so they were teaching him their ways. But my point in saying that is that the one secret that he found out amongst all those the 20th wealthiest men in the world at that time, were that they all had a definitive chief aim. And so if you notice, people who aren't successful, they don't have a definitive chief aim. They don't have one thing that's more important than anything else. And when you look at the men in our community, most of them don't have a definitive chief aim. Most of them don't have a definitive chief aim. And so they can't lead their families. Now, those women, a lot of them actually do have a definitive chief aim, because you know what? They're thinking about their kids. They're thinking about their family. And so the men who do make that happen, those are the ones who are thinking about their family. And they're thinking about, they got that chief aim. But my point is that when you get into a relationship, I feel like addressing that chief aim should be number one. Okay, what is your chief aim? And for us being in the Black community, we generally all have the same chief aim. So it's very interesting. Now, if we came from a family that had money and already has stability, our chief aim may be a bit different. It may be to show people perspective on art or something. It may be an entirely different chief aim, but due to the fact that we come from the Black community, we come from a place where the majority are impoverished. Of course, our goal is to, gain wealth and share it amongst our people. So, in my opinion, we don't really have the luxury. And even when you look at the numbers, right? If you look at the numbers between men and women, we don't have the luxury to say, I want this person all to myself. I want, especially if they are a very powerful person.
Well, cousin, I want to piggyback off you right quick. So,
go ahead.
Tania, I want you to just see if you understand where I'm about to go with this. So basically, off you said, right? Women have more of a chief aim, right? Okay, so I mean, right now the ways you got, men still make more than women. But as for our age group, because more women go to college, they're now, for our age group, starting to make more money than the average man. the average African American man makes $42,000 to $45,000 a year. Women come out of college make more than that, right? So this is going a little bit back to polygamy and monogamy. So maybe not now, but in the next 15, 20 years, because a woman makes more than the average African American male, I can see women, because they still want to, they still want a husband. They want somebody, to provide. They want a provider, right? So maybe at a certain point, the men that have a certain amount of wealth will actually be able to have, maybe the women will be okay with having, there's other women. It's not just her by herself. I'm trying to get my words right. You get what I'm trying to say? So yeah, another 15 years, polygamy might become a norm instead of just
in my opinion, it's already the norm. We just don't, it's just not called that. It's called many other things. It's called, mixed families. It's called baby mama, baby daddy. It's called ex-wife, ex-husband. It's already done. But like you said, the one thing that the Bible did say was that divorce was bad, right? And so let me give context to that. We're talking about marriages, right? So polygamy, monogamy, we're talking about marriages. When we look at what marriage is actually the union of a male and a female. It's the union of those two people. That makes a marriage. What unifies them is not the government or the state signing the marriage license, which is what the westernized world has us under the impression that marriage is. Marriage is actually the sex act that creates a child, because now regardless if you want to or not, your interest is merged for life. It's not for 18 years, it's for life. Your interest is merged. Your legacy lives on through that offspring. So you guys are married. If you have a child with somebody, you're married to them, whether it's on paper or not. So the fact is, we're already practicing this, but it's not in a strategic manner, and it's very counterproductive to our communities and counterproductive to our children, the way in which it's done now. And that's not on accident. It's not on accident. They want the black male figures out of the household. So the entire thing is to eliminate the black man. They love black women. They don't want to respect black women, but they love them. They love reproducing with our black women. They love controlling our black women. They've always wanted to rape and have our black women. So the reality is that they want the black men out of the picture. And there's many different strategies. I mean, we could go through many of them, but there's many different strategies that have been employed historically to get the black man to become more feminine, to become weak, to no longer have his respect or his place in the household. And the government steps in to actually replace him, the need for him, through food stamps, through government assistance. Notice that they will allow a woman to have an infinite amount of children with an infinite amount of men, and they will give you food stamps for each one of those children. They will give you assistance for each one of those children, but that doesn't replace the hugs or the love that those children need from their fathers, or the guidance that they need from their fathers. You would think that they would tell the women, like, hey, you got to set a limit on that. After the third child, you don't get any more. You got to make better decisions. You know what I mean? Pick some higher quality men. You know what I mean? But no, they will assist them up until their 25th child. And there's a reason for that. And the goal is to show the women that they don't need the men, which is not true. We need each other. The children, it takes both of us to create the children. So we need each other, or there's not going to be any more offspring. So, but they just want to basically utilize us for the offspring and office, and really they want to no longer allow us to reproduce, period. So that's a whole nother story, but there's a lot of,
man, because I got a discussion on the feminist movement too. You about to kill all the, you got all my videos. You try to knock them out in one ballpark. We gonna get there, D.
Oh, well, let me say this real quick. Don't worry, because the thing is I could regurgitate it all off right off the top of my head, but I've talked to so many people that I know that just hearing it once, it does not stick. So somebody's going to watch this once or twice or three times, and it's still not going to stick 100%. It may change their perspective a little bit, but you have to almost do the research yourself. I would have to give the sources. I have to show them where to look to get the information so that it really digests. So don't worry. Trust me, don't worry.
I'm gonna definitely bring you back. I'm gonna bring you back.
Wow. But one thing I do want to say is that De'Ara, I can definitely tell that you're a reader. And I know the difference between the readers, because I know for me, I don't like to read like that. But no, I know, but it's crazy. And it's like I go to college, but the knowledge that you know is more intellectually inclined than mine is. And I can tell because you read books. And that's what's crazy. And I know that everyone says, going to university and college is important and stuff. But there's a lot of people come out of college and they're just plain dumb. We finesse our way through school, get a grade, and you can push through. I mean, it teaches you other aspects, but there's a lot that you may come out just not knowing, because most of the knowledge is in books. You can't learn it in a classroom with a teacher just nailing over your head, and that's what's crazy, is because just the things that you're saying, I mean, changing my perspective, and some stuff went through one ear and out the other, but a lot of it, I was like, man, no, I'm just being honest. A lot of it, I'm just like, wow, you do research. I can tell, because the information you're sharing is like, I didn't even think about that. I'm coming on this podcast and you just know this stuff off the top of your head, and that's just great. And I just wanted to commend you on that. I can tell you read. And
I appreciate that a lot. And so like I said, my chief aim is to be able to spread the wealth amongst my family. I feel like the wealth is not the physical money. Most people don't know what money is.
Knowledge
represents. So it's really it's the knowledge, it's the example, the understanding. So that's why I feel like having these type of conversations is very important, not to be right or wrong or anything like that, but just to have the conversation, because most people don't even want to have the conversation. They're like, I know what I know, and that's it. And it hurts our egos to hear anything outside of that. But in order for me to get this information, I've had my ego crushed many, many times. Learning new information, it crushes my ego every time, because it's like, wow. That's all you can say. So, I appreciate that a lot.
Yeah, of course. What else you got, Rashard?
Well, that's about it. You know what I'm saying? We ain't really got a time limit. We ain't trying to kill everybody listening. So, what I'm saying? We're going to have a part 2 at some point, or, switch it up, have another topic. But D, Tania, thank you for all the love and information.
I'm going to read more books. I'll have more to say next time. I have more to say.
I appreciate you. You're very smart, and you're very beautiful. You're very smart, and I can tell that you got a good head on your shoulders. So you got good energy too. So
he's good.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Well, thank y'all guys for joining the podcast. Stay tuned. We have more information coming up. I got is it worth getting married in modern day times? And also I got some business. You know what I'm saying? Because like De'Ara said, I want to spread wealth to people. So I'm gonna bring different people that's successful around our ages and doing different things. I'm gonna bring onto the channel, have different outlets, and try to help people make it, because there's too many people just being passive, standing there and just letting life by and not doing nothing. So there's a lot of things I want to spread. So thank y'all guys. Tune in. Have fun.
All right.
Well, thanks, Rashad. Thanks for having us on here, man. And be sure to follow all of us.
Yes. Follow us.
Tania, drop your YouTube information for them.
Okay, yes, everyone, you can go subscribe to the Topic Twins on YouTube. And you can follow us on Instagram at Topic Twins. You can also follow me on my private page, Tania Talks, because I'm always talking and I love doing stuff like this. So thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure. And I hope to be back on here soon.
Deuces.
Nice. All right. Peace, everybody. Have a good night.